All right, we are getting to the end of our series of the 20 questions to reinvent your life. And so we're going to shift gears a little bit into our last two questions. And this has to do with vision for the future. There's a biblical saying that without vision, people will perish. And whatever you believe, the idea behind this is that if you don't know where you're going, if you can't visualize where you're going, if you don't have a vision for your future, you're not going to get there. Nobody just shows up someplace great by accident, right? If you're creating something, if you want to have this transformation, we're talking about this reinvention of ourselves, this better, best version of ourselves, we have to know what that looks like, right? So if I say, okay, if you could reinvent your life and have your dream life, but you go, well, I don't know what that would look like. It's going to be really difficult to create it, right? Like a painter often has an image in their mind before they paint it. And we need that image in our mind of what this reinvented dream life is going to look like. So we're going to dive into the next two and final questions on this visualization. What does it all look like? We've taken a deep dive into lots of questions, but now let's bring it all together. So if you don't have the workbook, you can grab it here. This is the free workbook. It's got all 20 questions. If you are watching the replay or you're watching here live, please comment. Let me know, where in the world did you find me? Where are you coming from? And where are you watching on? And have you been working through the workbook with us, or is this your very first question? If this is your very first question, you're like, I love this, I need more of this, you can go in on my YouTube station. There's a playlist that has all of the questions. We've dived into all of them, or you can just grab the workbook here. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I will leave it up over here though, so you can grab it at any time. Okay. And so the idea behind this is that really there's this best version of yourself that we just need to bring out, right? This reinvented version. It's not a different you, it's the best you. It's the one that's always been there, that you've known has been in there. We're just working through these questions to kind of get our brain going to come up with strategies, actions, rechanging the way we're thinking about things so we can step into this version. The benefit of having the workbook is that when you write things down and you kind of keep that log, you can go back, you can reference it, you can use it and build upon it. Okay. So our question today is, what does my ideal future self look like in terms of personal and professional aspects? What does my ideal future self look like in terms of personal and professional aspects? So the first thing we need to do is kind of come up with, well, what does that ideal person look like? So let's talk about some areas. Number one is, what would your health look like? Okay, so how would you be eating? Would you be exercising? What would your physical body look like? For me, my ideal version is I would be a different weight, but I'd be stronger. I'd have developed a lot more muscle. My heart would be in better shape. I'd have better endurance. I'd be eating clean. I would be eating the sugar. I'd be eating a lot more protein. Like, my ideal version of myself is a much healthier version, right? And so what would that look like? The other area you want to explore is, what are the habits that this ideal person would be doing? Like, what would your morning routine look like? What would your evening routine look like? How would you be showing up? Even little things like, in your ideal version of this reinvented person, when you got up in the morning, from the first thing you woke up until you got your day going, what would that look like? Would you have a different morning routine than you do right now? One of the things that I'm personally really working on is breaking the habit of looking at my phone, and not looking at my phone for those first, whether it's 15, 30 minutes when I get up, because it's very, when you look at your phone, it does a lot of things from the hormones and what it's triggering and the dopamines in our brain, but it's also giving all our power away. It's whatever's on the other side of that phone, whoever emailed you, sent you a text message, responded to something, like, they're kind of setting the tone for the day. That certainly strips us of our power to then set the tone for our own day and create. So that would be one thing that we really want to be careful of, is like, when we're getting up in the morning, who are we giving our power to, right? So what would your ideal person, your ideal version of yourself do? What would they do when they show up in their office, or when you show up at your job? What would all of this look like? Now, this is going to be personal in how you show up and what you do, and what is, when you look at it, like if you were an outside person watching a movie of your life, What would it look like? But then also professionally, what would that look like? Would you be doing the job that you're doing now? Would you be doing a different job? Would you be doing a business? Would you have created something different? Would you be working with a coach to maybe reinvent your career in your second act? Like, what would all of that look like? Here's the key. The more crystal clear we can get on what that looks like, the likelihood of having that becomes greater. When we are not crystal clear on what we want to create, it's very difficult for our mind, our subconscious, and our thoughts to go and create it. I'm going to share some interesting stats with you, because when we talk about visualizing, visualizing is simply, can I see something that doesn't exist? It's that dream state. Can I picture something that doesn't really exist? When you visualize something, quote, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were experiencing it in real life. This is crazy. Just by visualizing it, just by picturing in our head, the neural pathways act as if we're experiencing it in real life. Primarily, the visual cortex, which is located in, I don't know if I'm saying this right, occipital lobe, it's OCCIPITAL lobe. It's essentially rehearsing the action or the scenario in your mind. This is so powerful and so scary. Because if you think about it, when you worry about something or you stress about something, your brain is activating it as if it was experiencing it in real life. And you start rehearsing something that you don't want to have happen, right? Very, very scary. And this is why we talk a lot about when I'm working within the Making Cancer Fund. And many of you guys know my daughter's a cancer survivor. I talk with parents who have children going through a life-changing medical diagnosis. We have to be really careful that we don't start rehearsing something we don't want to happen. I just literally had somebody 2 days and they don't know, some tests are going to go, and she's in a state where she can't eat. And I was saying, okay, we have to be really careful what's going on here in our brain. What are we activating before we have more facts, right? Because that can change your experience on so many levels. So when we're talking about visualizing our future, we want to rehearse, we want to create the scenario that we want, right? We need to get really crystal clear on this. Now, you have what's called your RAS, your reticular activating system. It's kind of like right here on the base of your neck. I find this reticular activating system so creepy and cool at the same time. And I'm going to read it to you. It's a network filters information. So this brain network, this part of your brain, filters information based on what you focus on. So by visualizing a goal, you're programming this reticular activating system to identify opportunities that align with your vision. This is wild. Your brain is going to start to seek out and look for opportunities that are in alignment with what you're visualizing. And at first, I remember hearing about this years ago and thinking, this can't even be real, right? And then this is how it was described to me. And I went, oh, this is really real. Think about when you get a new car. Maybe you get a certain make or a certain model. And all of a sudden, it seems like everybody on the road bought the same make and model that you got. And you're like, what? Where did all these cars come from? Why are they all the car that I have? They were always on the road. It's not that you bought it and you started a new fad. It's just that your brain wasn't thinking about that car. And now that it is thinking about that car, it's looking for it, right? And so this is true in everything that we do. If you want to scale your business and you start to visualize your business the way that you want it to look, your brain is going to start to seek out opportunities to make that happen. So I'll give you another example. Years and years ago, and this is probably, probably 16 years ago, I wanted to hit a certain career level in one of my businesses. And in that career level, I was going to earn a pink Cadillac. And so I remember I took a season, it was probably about 6 months, where literally I would visualize driving that pink Cadillac. I would drive my car and I would picture if I was sitting in it. I remember I would walk up to my car and I would picture and imagine walking up and putting my key. Back then, you put your key in the door. Put my key in the door of a pink car. I had gotten to the point where I was picturing my car being pink so much that there were times when I would get out of the grocery store, look for my car, and be confused. Where was my pink car? Why was it not pink? Why was it silver? Like, where did that car come from? Because in my mind, I was driving a pink car. That is the clarity that I had visualized it. I had no idea how I was going to earn this. I had no idea how I was going to hit that level. I struggled with a little bit of self-doubt. Was I capable of doing that? But I started to visualize this was my car. And I remember when I finally earned that pink car, and there was a little bit of a letdown because in my mind, I had already been driving that car for like a year. And I've earned multiple pink ones since then. But I will never forget that season of working so proactively focused on visualizing this that I wanted. And I remember also, this was probably about 20 years ago, I was working on hitting a career goal. And when you hit this level in my business, you got invited to speak in front of this group and share your success. And so every morning, this is kind of embarrassing, every morning when I was getting ready and I would stand in the shower, I would practice what I was going to say. And I would imagine standing there in front of that room. I would imagine who would be there. I'd imagine the seats. I would imagine how I would stand. I would imagine what I would talk about. And I would practice it as if it was real, just in the shower by myself. And I remember when I hit that level and I got invited to speak in front of the group. And, I was so young at the time. I was probably like, I don't know, like 21 years old. And I remember I got up and I stood there and I said, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is the only time I've done this with my clothes on, because I wasn't even thinking, right? Because I had always practiced in my shower. And everybody was like, what is she talking about? But I had made it so real and I had done it so many times that it naturally showed up. And guys, I've seen this over and over and over. And mentors that I've worked with, I remember working with a woman who had broken a huge record. It had never been done before. It was an income level that she wanted to achieve, and nobody had ever done this income level before. And I remember her saying, I had no idea how I was going to do that. I had no idea how it was going to happen. I didn't even know if it was really possible because nobody had ever done it. She said, but I lived in my vision. I remember those were the words that she said. I lived in my vision. I lived in my vision that it had happened, that I could see it. And so I started to create it. And you'll hear this with celebrities. You'll hear this with athletes. We hear these stories of people who lived in their vision. Jim Carrey talks about he carried around a check in his pocket made out to himself for $1 million. And it was his visualization. We hear about athletes who they, visualize winning that gold medal or scoring that, score or whatever it is, because you have to see it first. There is a saying, and I don't remember who said it, but that you really can't experience, and you don't really experience much in life that you didn't visualize at some point first. And so everything that we create, first we recreate in our mind, and then it becomes real. And think about an invention, right? Every invention was created in their mind, and then they created it in real life. And so we are basically creating all day long with our thoughts. Now it's just whether or not our thoughts are serving us and working for us or working against us. So this exercise, probably out of all of the questions, is going to take you the longest. And I know there's a little paragraph in the workbook. I'm going to encourage you to maybe grab a notebook and really start to detail with as much detail as possible, with as much crystal clarity as possible, what your ideal best version of yourself looks like. Everything from how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, what your house looks like, what your job looks like, what does your social media look like? What does your client base look like? What does your paycheck look like? What are you doing in your free time? What does your schedule look like? The clearer you can get to this dream life, the more your brain, this reticular activating system, is going to go, okay, let's go seek this out. Let's go find the answer to this. Now, you might be like, Tara, I have no idea how I would do this. That's okay. See, here's the best part of all of this is you don't need to figure out the how. You just need to figure out the what. Right now you're targeting the vision. What is the vision? Let's create the vision first. The how will actually start to figure itself out. Because remember, you're going to make your brain work for you. You're going to make your brain start to seek out opportunities because now it knows what it's looking for. This is also where it's very powerful for your subconscious to ask open-ended questions. So you have this vision now, and now you can start to ask your subconscious questions like, how do I make this vision come true? How can I start to create what I visualized? How can I start to create this dream life? What opportunities can come across my path to get me closer to this dream life? What opportunities am I missing? And it's so incredibly cool and creepy because this is where all of a sudden you're in a conversation with somebody and you realize like they're the key person that can help you get from point A to point B. And you're like, oh my gosh, how did that show up? How did that person come into my path? Or how did this opportunity land in my lap? And we kind of think it's like these miracles, right? But they're really not. You created them because you were seeking them out. Your energy was looking for it. So almost imagine if like all your brainwaves are going out into the universe and seeking out the opportunities to make this vision real. Okay. Without that, though, we can spend all this time going through your strengths, going through your core values, going through who's in your support system. You can have goals, but if you're not clear, it's like it's a fuzzy picture, right? You're not really clear. You kind of have all this info, but there's no clarity of what I'm shooting for. It's kind of like if you ever played archery. Did you ever play archery as a kid? We used to have this in middle school. It was like actually the only class I really liked in gym. And they have the big bullseyes with the red bullseye in the middle and all the circles. And I talk a lot about this with goal setting with women. We do a lot of confidence building through goal setting, particularly in Hey Girl You Can. That was like one of our core building foundations is how do you build your confidence through goal setting. We always talk about if you don't have a target, you can't win. If I just gave you a bow and arrow in an empty field, you can't win. You're just shooting in the field. You need to have a target. You need to have a goal. That's how you win. And the same is in life. You need to have a target. You need to have a vision. What are you looking for? What are you shooting for? That's how you win. So for today, I want you to take a deep dive. Now, a couple of things. I would love for you to put in the chat. Tell me a little bit about this vision. Tell me a little bit of this future. If you're watching it, on YouTube replay, put comment. Let me know, what is your vision? Because here's the thing. When you start to speak your vision into existence, it's even more powerful. When you start to write your vision into existence, it's even more powerful. What is the vision? Maybe there's somebody who is watching and they see your vision and they go, oh, I can kind of help you with that vision. You just don't know what you're going to create by doing that. If you're in our Hey Girl You Can community, I want you to hop over into our private Facebook group and share your vision. Like, we all need to be visionaries together to support each other in our community, to be able to cheer you on in that vision. Maybe there's somebody who can be part of that vision to create that vision for you. Okay, so you're going to go overhead in there. And if you're not part of Hey Girl You Can, I would invite you to join us. It is never cheaper than today because you get grandfathered in. Whatever rate you come in at, today's low rate, then it never goes, even if it goes up, you never pay more. So I always tell people, it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now. Join Hey Girl You Can. You get so much for it. You get the events, you get the private Facebook group, you get the networking, you get the training sessions every month, you get all the resources in the library. Like, you get all of the stuff to support you in growing you, so that you could grow a business or a goal or a dream or something that you want to have, right? So take a look at that. It's just heygirlyoucan.com if you want to join us. And then, of course, if you want to take a deep dive, an immersive dive, that's our Total Transformation Day. You have to look and see when the next one is. That's coming up. It doesn't happen all the time, but if you can get on the wait list if you are interested in that. And that's where we really work together in a deep dive, immersive, powerful, one-day experience to transform your life on a massive scale. So we do this type of work, but just on steroids, okay? And those are the ways that I can really serve you and helping and supporting you from where you are to where you want to be. That's a whole part of this process, right? It's that there's a place where I am right now, but there's a place that I want to be. And I truly believe that you can be in that place. I believe that you have the ability to be in that place because otherwise you wouldn't have that dream. There just might be some support systems that are missing to connect those dots. And that's where hopefully I can step in and help, mentor you in those places. So I'd love to know your takeaway from this. We only have one question left. I cannot believe it, but grab the workbook, connect with me, message me, let me know what your dreams are, and let's create this vision that you have for yourself together.